Hey, this is the second episode of the skinning tutorial. This time around you will focus on the most design heavy part of also skins, which is the song selection screen. You will also learn how to make it the new way, one that is way easier and more flexible than what skinners had to put up with for years before the change was introduced. There is a lot of stuff to cover, but we will try our best to deliver everything in the simplest way possible. So, let's jump to the video. The general process of skinning isn't anything crazy and it may vary from person to person. Usually it starts with some idea for the theme, gathering references or mood boarding and maybe some simple drafts that you fancy. Then you make the song selection screen since this is the most visual part of a skin. After which you can either keep working on other screens like the ranking panel, pause and fail screen, or go straight for the gameplay. With the other screens skinned, you can move on to the part which is all about making those small, random files that don't really add up too much, but make a difference when they adhere to the theme of the skin. Lastly, you may choose to make your skin fit multiple aspect ratios, which we will have a tutorial for later. Skins usually start on a 16:9 base since that one is the most popular among players and it makes it very easy to adjust to other aspect ratios, since you don't have to add new things to it once you fully skin it. Then once everything is skinned you can adjust the files to fit other ones like 4:3 or 16:10 for example. It is a shame more people don't choose to do that since the process of adjusting the source files to fit more resolutions rarely takes long, but may earn you extra clicks when you release the skin if you even care about that. Have you ever tried making something out of nothing? Well, I did, and it didn't end well. Skins look better when they follow a consistent theme all the way across. This can be anything from simple UI through your generic anime waifu skins to very sophisticated and artsy pieces. You can be inspired by absolutely anything really and don't have to stick to what's popular, but it's good to have something to go off of when making a skin, otherwise you might end up with very random and not cohesive results which do not look good. You may ask, where do you look for inspiration? Any form of media can give you something you might want to make a skin around. And if you choose your theme but happen to run out of ideas going forward, you should try looking for references that relate to your theme. Sites like Pinterest, design inspiration, or sometimes even Google Images could give you a quick creative boost without any hassle. It is also a good practice to make a mood board before you start working, that way you will have something you can refer to from the very beginning, which could make your work more cohesive and thought out. The font you choose for your skin is also very important since it should match the vibe you're going for. And to help you make better font choices, let me tell you the 7 main font types you can choose from. Serifs are those little fancy things at the end of the letters. They can be either pointy or a slab and can give your work a more fancy and premium look. Sans means without in French, so this describes a font without a serif. Those fonts are generally good for small text since they are nice and easy to read, but can be used for about anything. Script fonts are very fancy looking and good for decoration. They mostly look like they're written in cursive. With handwriting fonts, the name speaks for itself. That's just a font that is supposed to look natural, just like someone's handwriting. They look very good in cartoony styles. A monospace font has a very special characteristic which makes all characters the same width. They are not visually the same but have the same width for all symbols, which is good for programming or terminals. So if you are going for a techy skin, this may be the choice for you. These can also be used on small text since they are very readable. Display fonts are highly stylized and are meant mostly for big heading text that's supposed to catch the user's attention. Do not use these for regular text, trust me, it will look bad, sometimes even cheap. The general consensus of fonts is pretty simple. You use a display font for your titles, and then for the smaller fonts use something simpler and more readable. There's nothing wrong with using just one font throughout the skin, as long as it's not super stylized. Plenty of graphics just use a bolder variant of their main font for the titles and it looks good. There are also font pairings, but that's a completely different topic we do not have time for, so you can explore it on your own with the information freely available on the internet. And if you ever need help, remember we have a very active Discord with lots of skinners to help you out if you ever run into any issues. It's the fastest way to get help since YouTube comments won't guarantee a quick response. Alternatively, you may also try searching for your problem on the Also Skinning forums or the r/AlsoSkin subreddit. A lot of people run into similar problems, so perhaps your question was already answered there. Or if you can't find anything, you can create a new post and somebody may help you out. And as mentioned previously, you should start skinning Songselect on the 16:9 aspect ratio since it's the most popular one amongst the players. And it makes it very easy to adjust to other aspect ratios since you don't have to add any new things to it once you fully skin it. Unless you just don't care about others. So that's what we are gonna do just now. Download the 16:9 template from the Skinship website if you haven't already and open it. You're gonna be greeted with a pretty faithful recreation of the song select screen and a bunch of labeled groups made for your convenience. The template allows you to automatically export your files as PNGs to the directory where the PSD is located. All you need to do is go to File, Generate Image Assets, or if you are using Photoshop 26 and above, File, Automate, Generate all plugins, then check Image Assets. And any layer that has .png at the end will be automatically exported. Be aware that sometimes the layer mask may not apply and the asset gets exported with a large amount of empty space, which in turn breaks it in game. In that case, just toggle it by holding shift and left clicking on it twice. That should fix the issue. The songselect PSD is actually a PSD-T file. The T stands for template and it opens as an untitled file which you then have to save. So conveniently you can save it in the also skins folder to make use of the auto export feature. If you made the skin folder earlier, make sure to select the folder generated by the template in-game and move all the files there. Or save it somewhere else and copy all the files yourself, it's up to you. While skinning, you should also make your own groups of layers within the ones we have already provided. This helps you stay organized and saves you the trouble of trying to differentiate between rectangle 472 and rectangle 312. Speaking of which, make sure to name your more important layers and groups to further help you maneuver around the file. Photoshop also lets you color code them with a few preset ones, which we already kind of did for you, but you can color code your own layers however you want. Also, as a heads up, you should never rasterize your vector layers or merge unrelated ones together. Just don't merge anything in general, you will be better off that way. In case you are wondering what's rasterization, digital graphics are split into two categories. Vector graphics are basically just a bunch of points connected together. Your computer will make the calculations, add a color fill or a stroke, and then show it on your screen at native resolution. Since vector graphics are just points, and your computer makes the calculations between those points, that means vector graphics are infinitely scalable without losing quality. Unlike raster graphics, which are made of pixels on a canvas with a set resolution. Raster graphics will get blurry when scaled up, unless they are upscaled with AI tools, which sometimes work surprisingly well. You can see it for yourself by just making a dot with a brush in Photoshop and then transforming it. The edges get all wonky and blurry. Photoshop also lets you combine vector layers while maintaining their vector properties, so these are fine to merge. But if you're just starting out and have no idea what you are doing, it's better to just keep things separate. Text layers in Photoshop are also vectors, so don't rasterize or merge them. That way you can edit their contents later. A lot of the free programs don't have vector support for shapes or text, which is why we don't recommend using those for any design work. Figma users stay winning here since Figma is primarily a vector program which can display raster graphics through images or even show a pixel preview of the screen. You may also notice that the resolution of the template is quite specific. The game keeps skin files in two different resolutions, one for SD or standard definition images, and the other for HD, high definition or Add2X images, which are double the width and height of the SD ones. The cutoff point at which the game stops using SD assets is 800p. So the closest resolution with a 16:9 aspect ratio is 1366x768. Double that and you get 2732x1536, which is the resolution the template is using. You're gonna skin Add2X elements first. If you skinned SD first, you wouldn't be able to just upscale the files to be Add2X without it experiencing quality loss. Since Add2X assets are double the size of the SD ones, you can just downscale them later to fit the smaller resolutions. But if you're asking yourself if you have to export each element twice, once for HD and once for SD, then fear not. Rowan, who is one of the members of Team Rocket, has made a very useful program in the past that takes the entire skin folder and downscales it by 50%. You just use it once you skin all the elements and the program will do all the hassle for you. As a quick heads up, I'd like to mention that you should save all your source files, in case you need to go back and change something later. Save them in a safe place on your computer and don't put them inside the skin when you release it. They will just add to the file sense for no reason. You can have them in the skin folder while you're working on it, but just remember to take them out before giving it to others. We're gonna focus on the bottom part at first, since that's where most of the trickery is. Its structure is quite simple. We use songselect-bottom as a background, menu back as the back button, and selection mode, selection random, and selection options for the 4 function buttons. Selection mode also has another use, where it's used to overlay design elements on top of the default OSU UI, but you will learn about it later in this video. Each of the 4 files mentioned earlier also have an over variant, which is used for their hover state and defines their actual hitbox. And now that you got familiar with the basics, let's move on to creating some actual files. If you don't plan on using the template or its generate assets feature, the very first step is to navigate to your game's install location and inside of the skins directory. The fastest way to do that is to open the in-game options, go to the skins section and click open current skins folder. Then just go one directory above and make a new folder there. After you make the folder, you can go back into the game and press Ctrl-Shift-Alt-S to refresh the skin. But this will also refresh your skin list, so you can switch to the skin folder you or the template have made. After you switch the skins, we can go back to the folder and create the skin.ini file. We are not gonna go deep into it in this episode because you should watch the dedicated tutorial we made for it. Otherwise you won't understand how it works and will make mistakes that will cause you a headache later on. So don't rush ahead and watch the previous episode if you haven't done so already. Going further, you could hide one element which most of the community is not very fond of. The stars bursting from the currently selected bitmap are called star2. When the skins folder is empty, the game will load the default skin elements. So to actually hide something, skinners use a 1x1 transparent PNG to circumvent that. Feel free to take one of those from any other skin, since it won't make your skin mixed by any means. When blanking out elements, you should only skin the SD, non-Add2X version of the asset. The game will load it for both SD and HD resolutions, unlike Add2X, which only loads on resolutions above 800p. Now all that's left is to actually get into the skinning part. When making the song select screen, it's best to use a template like the one we provided, which is available for Photoshop. Later on we might have a template for Figma as well, but no promises. And to help those of you who do not use Photoshop for skinning, you can just use a static image of SongSelect for alignment. These are available on the Skinship website and are sufficient enough to work with. You don't even miss out on a lot by going with this approach, since the PSD template only gives you a bit of a workload boost and a more faithful representation of the song select with your changes. So let's move on to making the songselect-bottom file, which we will use as the general background for the entire bottom part. Looking at the wiki, we can see it gives us some important information. It stretches to 100% of screen width, and making this element too tall will prevent mouse clicks from interacting with elements below it. That pretty much means we shouldn't make it higher than the default asset, otherwise it might break the song select screen and make things below it not clickable, so keep that in mind. Let's just make a background in the songselect-bottom group and check if it stretches to 100% of the screen width. If you want your background to not reach both ends of the screen, you can do that by simply adding empty space to the asset when you export it, and making sure its width is 2732 pixels for 16:9 screens. You can try exporting your newly made file to see how it looks in game. If you use the generate assets function in Photoshop, you should have them exported into a folder in the location of the PSD. So refresh your skin if your PSD is located in the skins directory, or otherwise copy and paste the files from where you have it stored straight into your skin. If you are not using that feature, you can right click the group and click export as. This will bring up the export window, just make sure you have the format set to PNG and transparency checked. Apologies to folks who use programs other than Photoshop, but we just can't cover every case ever for something like this. Here's a Figma example though. Then just go back to the game and click Ctrl-Shift-Alt-S to refresh the skin. You should now see the file in the song select. If you don't, make sure it's named correctly in the proper folder and it's the correct format. If you still don't see it and just happen to be on a resolution lower than 800p, then your game won't see the add2x assets. Luckily for you, there is no need to skin in SD or downscale the assets each time. You can go to the main folder of the game, open os.yoursystemusername.cfg, find high resolution and set its value to 1. This will force the game to load add2x files even on resolutions below 800p. If you still don't see the file, then you are gonna have to figure it out on your own, or join the Skinship Discord where people will help you with your issue in no time. With a simple background on, we can move on to the next file, which is menu back. People usually make it 448 pixels long because it makes it reach the left side of the selection mode, giving us a nice large area to click on. So you can use that as our base width, or make something smaller, it's fully up to you. Just don't make it super long, we might make an episode on skinning gimmicks later and it will 100% be there. It's also a good idea to not make it too tall where it covers the leaderboards. You don't want people to click on their personal best score only for the game to go back to the main menu, do you? You should also add some call to action, like a backtext or an arrow pointing left. Small things like that will make the user experience of your skin so much better. You don't have to, but it's good practice to do so. Moving on to another part of the bottom area, we are gonna focus on the 4 selection buttons now. These don't have anything special to them for the most part. You can make them look like buttons, or you can make them look like not buttons. For example, take some assets related to the theme of your skin. As long as you give them proper labels, icons, or the hitboxes are more or less the same in their original place, people won't have much trouble using them. Now, if you're using our Photoshop template, you may have run into an issue where you make something but it gets cut off. This is because some of the groups have masks attached to them. A mask is a black and white rectangle visible on the group layer, and they are used to show and hide parts of the image without affecting the content inside, which also allows us to edit them non-destructively. The basics of layer masks are simple. Click the button that looks like the flag of Japan to add one to your layer. If your layer already has one, it will add a vector mask on top of the layer mask, but we don't want those for now. Then select the brush tool by clicking B on your keyboard. Select the mask and start painting on it. Black hides parts of the layer and white shows it back. You can easily switch between the primary and secondary colors by clicking X on your keyboard. That allows you to quickly make adjustments to it. But making adjustments like that with a brush isn't the most precise way of doing things. Select the rectangular marquee tool, make a selection where you want your image to be visible, select your mask, make sure your color is set to what you want to do, remember, white shows, black hides, and press Alt backspace to fill in the area with your primary color. Your previously hidden parts are now visible and the template will adjust the exported canvas size to your new mask automatically. But if you were to move your cursor over the buttons in game, you would quickly realize that the default buttons still appear while hovering on them. So let's make those and give our skin some interactivity. The names of the files are super simple to remember since it's just the file name of the buttons you want to make the hover state for and add -over at the end. So we should make a copy of the layers or group containing the selection buttons and now we can do our adjustments. Usually it's fine if you just make the button a different color, maybe add some glow to the elements or maybe even add some new details that appear while hovering. The canvas is yours and you can do whatever fits you best. Once you are done making your adjustments, just copy the group to each of the minus overgroups inside the template. You may need to adjust the masks a tiny bit if things are being cropped out, but we have already explained how this is done, so you should be fine on your own. Just make sure to not go outside of the buttons that much when making the over files. Their canvas size determines the hitbox for the actual button, so if you go outside too much, it will break the interactivity by hovering over a different button rather than the one you intended. Now your button should be done, so let's move on to the profile area, which does not have its own dedicated file, but skinners use clever ways to skin it and make it look good. The two files we are looking at are once again songselect-bottom and selection mode. So to start, make your background on the songselect-bottom file since it's layered below the profile area, and then add any overlays you may need on selection mode since this one is layered above it. With the help of the template, you should be easily able to align the text labels, as well as make a nice cover for the profile picture if you so wish. Just make sure you use a simple font for the small labels. Moving on to the also cookie, this is where the animators go. The cookie is very simple to skin. While it does not have a skinnable file, you can use selection mode to make a cover on top of the existing one. Just add it on the right side of the file and you're done. You can make it a nice visual part of the song select, some nice detail relating to the theme, or even something as simple as the skin's name. Add some flair to it. And no, you can't remove the default also cookie or prevent it from appearing on hover. The default cookie also doesn't fade out completely for some reason. Its after image is more visible on some skins than others, usually the more simplistic ones suffer the most. The PSD template we have provided you with has a subtraction layer which you can turn on to make the after image less apparent. It's not perfect, and if you look very hard you can still kinda see it, but if your skin has a very busy cookie, that after image won't be visible even if you try your best looking for it. That concludes the bottom part, so let's move higher up the screen and skin the top now. This section is gonna be way simpler than the previous one. We are pretty much only gonna use 2 files to skin the entire thing, and then you have an option to skin 2 additional ones to add some extra flavor to your skin. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. We are gonna use songselect-top for the main background of the top part. You can technically skin it however you want, use it to make cool overlays, add random details to portion of the song select, or what became popular once these elements became skinnable, make them partially or fully transparent. There's only one catch that comes with partial transparency. The file is repeating its rightmost 20-ish pixels from somewhere around its halfway point and the repetitions are layered onto themselves. We don't know the exact point which they are repeating from, it seems like it's changing with the user's in-game resolution, but if we ever find it and confirm it, the wiki will be updated to reflect it. So the only thing you need to watch out for when scanning this file is the transparency thing. And before you ask why is this even a thing, here is the only explanation you will need. Games often reuse assets in different places to save on memory. This also makes it easier for programmers since they don't need to wait for designers to create new assets for something. So what probably happened when Peppy was making the game, he chose to use the rightmost side of the default songselect-top to make a repetitive stretch for the song select. This saves him the trouble of making multiple assets to fit different screen resolutions. Speaking of the default songselect-top, the template PSD as well as the skinship resources side have the default skin curve available for you to use if you'd like to have a more vanilla skinning experience. But there may be other things you might want to customize, like the group sort dropdowns and the grouping tabs. And what file do we use for those? That's right, selection mode yet again. This file is truly the most versatile when skinning. It literally has 4 separate uses while its original purpose was to be a button. Anyway, we are getting sidetracked. The template already has a mask expander that goes up to the top by default, so you shouldn't have a need to expand on it more. You can start by making a cover for the group sort titles since most of the time skinners don't want them there. And here you can opt for 2 options, a simple background or a carbon copy of your underlying songselect-top file, which will give it a more uniform look. The first one is fully dependent on your design. Can be a rectangle, a bit rounded, or something abstract. Let your creativity soar. The latter requires you to make a copy of your songselect-top file. Right click on it and click Rasterize layer. Yes, this is one time where you should do it. Or, if you are fancy and use Photoshop, make it a smart object. This will allow you to still edit it after you merge the group by double clicking the thumbnail. After you do either of those, make the selection with the rectangular marquee tool. Press Ctrl J to make a copy and move it to the bottom of the selection mode group, which should give you the uniform look. If it's somehow misaligned in-game by a bit, then just move that layer a tiny bit until it matches up and export again. After skinning the group and sort backgrounds, you may want to skin the drop-down boxes, but it's not possible to skin them, so we are moving to the grouping tabs. These also have 2 main ways of skinning them. You can have them skinned with the regular asset, which isn't anything crazy. It changes the color depending on which tab is selected, but not like you can change the color of its text or the inactive color the tab changes to that much. You can try recoloring the asset, but this color will be only visible on the active one. The inactive tabs will still get tinted with multiplicative red, which might result in different looks. The template already shows you how your active and inactive color will look on the tabs, so you'll have an easier time picking the right one for your skin. Alternatively, just like the group and sort labels, you can make an overlay using selection mode. Just remember to label them correctly, or if you use icons, make sure they are somewhat reminiscent of what the tab is supposed to represent. By making the tabs this way, you lose that one bit of visual input they provide, which is not that great for the overall user experience. But what if there was a third way? You can mask out cutouts in your selection mode overlay to make them see-through and reveal the button underneath. You can also extend the selection tab and make an interactive overlay around it, like in the skin you can see me do just now. Just be mindful that selection tab also appears in multiplayer lobbies, so doing too much with it will look weird there. The last thing selection mode can cover is the search box. Not too much to say there either, just make a box, add an icon and some text, boom, search box done. You only need to watch out for the text that pops up when the game shows you how many results match your search. You can either try to make a slim search bar to show it fully, or make something that completely covers it. To make people's lives easier, I also like to add a list of keywords the game recognizes in my skins. This also teaches the newbies that this indeed is a feature the game supports. Lastly, we are gonna talk about Rank Forum. This is the button right next to the leaderboards dropdown. It opens the currently selected song's webpage or the modding discussion. This one is also very simple, so let's keep the section concise. It's just a button, so you're not gonna be able to do much with it, but it has one restriction when it comes to its size, which is capped at 50 by 50. Everything after that gets cropped. If you had a need to make something bigger, just make another overlay on selection mode. Man, this file is just too good. What isn't good is leaving the song Carousel and leaderboards unskinned. For the song list, we are pretty much only interested in 3 files. Menu button background is the background of each song on the carousel, which is also reused in a few other places, like both the leaderboards on the left side of song select and the gameplay ones, as well as the currently selected song in multiplayer lobbies. Usually people just make them a rectangle since that's the only shape that fits the format in every place they are used, but feel free to make them a bit more abstract, just don't stray too much from their basic form. You will also notice that the file gets tinted, which at first seems to be random, but no, these are actually color coded according to their play state. And unluckily for you, you can't alter those colors. They are also applied multiplicatively, which means that these exact colors will be applied to white arrays of the asset. Any color besides white will result in a different outcome, while the brightness controls how much of the color is applied. That means if you make menu button background black or dark gray, we can kind of get around the hard-coded colorway by simply abusing the multiply blend mode, which lets darker color shine through the applied one. Lastly, you may notice that even though you made your file fully opaque, it is slightly see-through in-game. That is another hard-coded thing, and this time we can't do anything about that. You can also choose to enable or disable thumbnails from the in-game options as long as your skin is using a version higher than 2.1. Which it should, because you should be skinning on 2.7 and not on version latest. Thumbnails are sized at 230 by 170 and are positioned 18 pixels away from the left side of the HD asset. Right next to the thumbnail you will find the song info section, which can move quite a bit depending on a few factors, like whether the bitmap has a local score, or in the case of any non-standard game mode, you may notice a small icon appear to show the user what game mode the bitmap is for. And since we are talking about the song info section, let's focus on the star rating now. Not much to say about it besides the fact that there are 2 ways this can be displayed. The skin.ini file we are using has its version set to 2.7, which for the star PNG file means it will be scaled in as the star rating increases. But there is another way the stars can be displayed, and it's by changing the version to 2.1. This will make the stars fill in from left to right. And you might think that's cool, but what's not cool is losing a lot of the skinning functionalities. If you go to the skin.ini page on the also skinning wiki, you will find exactly which features are being taken away, but mainly you will lose thumbnail support, which is the main way some players recognize maps in SongSelect, according to Zuli. And since we were speaking of the skin.ini file just a second ago, let's talk about how to change the color of the song info and the stars. Let's make a new colors section. Yes, it's spelled the British way, and you have to remember that the skin.ini file is case sensitive. So make sure you spell everything correctly if you don't want to have any errors. Now, let's add the 2 new options that interest us. SongSelect active text and SongSelect inactive text do pretty much what they say. One is the text for the currently selected difficulty and the other one for the not selected ones. Both of these need to be RGB values. So change them to something that fits your skin. Don't make them too in your face though. The best practice is to make the active text something that resonates well with the skin colors, while making the inactive text a bit darker and desaturated so it doesn't grab the player's attention 24/7. The last assets related to the song carousel are ranking small, so the ranking grade is visible on the leaderboards and the song list, which shows your top scores grade. All you need to know about them is that they are named ranking-grade-small and then add to X and PNG. The SS grades are actually addressed with X within the files. And in the case of the S and SS grades for the plays that use hidden or flashlight modes, you're meant to add an H after the letter, so it becomes SH and XH. Most of the time, people wait with making the small grids until they are done with the ones on the ranking panel, and then just scale them down to fit the song select, since that saves a bit of time and effort. But you may want to make them from scratch and give them a unique look. Depending on the complexity of your ranking panel ones, it may even be impossible to fully transfer them to song select without losing detail, so if you can, make them other native resolutions. One thing to take into account is their anchor point, which varies depending on where they are displayed. The song info anchors them from the left side of the asset, while the leaderboards have them originate from the center. And from that, a gimmick was born, where people made color-coded blocks that highlighted the entire menu button background file with the grades color, or made two different grades for the leaderboards and song info. The only problem with that gimmick is the broken state the gameplay is left in, since it also displays the small grades during breaks, leading to the very weird look of it and some players assuming it was done unintentionally. Which it kinda was, but it's more of a trade-off rather than negligence. Luckily for you, we are on the final stage of skinning the song select, so bear with me and let's finish it up with the mode selection. Everything is pretty much contained within the mode fruits math file, since it's very convenient to skin it all in one place. We have provided the file within the template with a gridful alignment, and the default also lays the mode icons. Not much to do here besides covering the default rectangular background with something nicer, and maybe adding a background of our own to slightly darken the screen when the menu is open. Or you could even go an extra mile and make it fully opaque with some fancy background you made to fit the skin better. Or maybe even somehow incorporate it into the flow of other details and elements within your song select. Once you're done, make sure you blank out other mode icons from the mode select menu with a 1x1 PNG. Their file names are just like the one we used just now, but the fruits part is replaced with the other game mode's name. And thus, the song select is done. Truly a behemoth of an episode, and definitely a nice feat if you have pulled through with it. We still have mods left to do, but we are gonna leave those for later since there is a faster way of making them compared to copy-pasting the same file over and over and changing the text and icons on them. If you don't want to wait for that to air, just head to the skin.ini wiki where you will have all of the file names and you can make the mod icons by yourself. Remember that if you have any issues following the tutorial, we have a Discord server with many active members who will help you out if you need it, or if you just wanna hang out and show what you are working on to the community. But for now, that will be it for this episode. Next time we are gonna focus on each game mode in its separate video as well as the gameplay interface, so stay tuned for that.